The river crossing at Tsavo caused many problems during the early days of the railway, partly owing to flooding which washed away the first bridge here. A new one at a higher level is seen here being built in this 1899 view, which shows one of the early F-type engines imported from India. But the track-laying gangs working their way up the route faced far more serious problems than mere flooding when they pitched camp at Tsavo. The river here was the main watering spot for the wild animals of the area, especially a pair of man-eating lions who found the well-disciplined gangs easy prey. Despite elaborate precautions including slinging hammocks in the trees, the attrition rate amongst the coolies was horrendous, a total of 28 Indians and a regrettably unrecorded number of Africans being lost to the lions. Traps were set and the lions finally caught and displayed for the camera, the bigger of the two standing 4 feet tall and 9 feet long.
My uncle came in 1912 during First World War. He was a doctor in the then British Indian Army, and he was seconded to Uganda, and he worked there as a doctor. Later on, he was the first Asian civil surgeon there. He retired from there as a civil surgeon in 1936, and then settled in India. He was awarded a MB by the British government, and the Rai Sahib title he got it from the Indian government. That's the Indian title.
Yeah.
So
really
he was a well-known man in East Africa. Through him, because of him, many of my family members, my father, my uncles and all, they came to Africa and settled there. And Uganda was very green country, and the main crops in Uganda used to be cotton and coffee. And then they later on in 1950s they found copper also somewhere in western Uganda, known as Kalembe mines. So these were the three main things for which Uganda used to earn foreign exchange from abroad. That's the brief history in Uganda, but lot of Asian, mostly Indians from Gujarat side, used to be the business community there. They used to provide us everything. Indian bazaar used to be there. But at the same time, they were in every corner of Uganda, in remote places where there is no other shop, but they used to provide every necessity of life, even to Asian, to Africans, anyone can go. They used to stock things and anything you can get through their shops.
And what did you miss about life in Uganda when you were living there?
Life there was a relaxed life, easy life. It was not a sort of hectic life as we find here. Running early morning for trains, catching up trains, miss the train, this, that. That sort of life was not there. Life was very relaxed. We used to have lunch hour break, 1.5 hours. Originally used to be 2 hours, 1950s, but then everybody used to go home, have their lunch, have a nap there at home, then come back, start 2 o'clock, and then Saturday used to be half day. And then there used to be local club there, you go there, play games or whatever you want, meet so many people there every evening. And Sunday we used to go to picnics here, there with families.
But Kenya life is really completely different. It's a really good life. It's small village, but it's friendly people and it's really nice. Kenya is a really nice country. It's green all the way, everything, And servant, home, you don't want to walk, And it's very easy life.
And was your granddad, was he the first person?
First person on my granddad is open a business on Zanzibar. Then they leave Zanzibar and come Mombasa. And then my grandfather is go back India, and my father running on business Mombasa, and then they starting other business on Nairobi. Then they go Kisumu.
And so what did your, you probably did tell me, what did your parents do? What did your dad do?
My parent business is shoemaker.
Shoemaker. And was it, what sort of size?
Oh, yeah, they were making a handwork all.
And did he do it all himself, or did he have staff?
No. As we have some servant working, and my father do himself, and all the families do shoes.
And were they sort of shoes? Who were they made for? Who were the customers?
Customer, all is Indian customer, white people. It's more white people. They love to handmade shoes. My husband also have a business. When we are married, we have a grocery business, like Tesco, small Tesco. And we're running with the British Army. It's, this village is 10,000 people. British Army is there. Small village, And it's all British Army, and we supply everything.
How did you see yourself? Do you see yourself as Indian, or British, or African?
No, we were very small village. We live it all together. Indian, Muslim, Punjabi. We have a marriage in the one house. With 3 days we close all this little town and we celebration all the enjoy with everything. It's nothing like that one. Only I do Asian work, Gujarati work or Pakistani work. Not like this one. We do celebration all together.
In the afternoon, the tropical rain turns the roads into quagmire, making driving conditions even worse. Despite these drawbacks, the Colt Lancer has its engine going full blast, gaining ground every second. In the Safari Rally, servicing and refueling is included in the time penalties, making precision and speedy servicing count in terms of valuable points. Quick!
Throw the washer bottle. Okay, come on!
People of Kenya give a warm applause to their hero Joginder, admiring the man in his car, the Colt Lancer, which they see for the first time. "42-year-old Joginder Singh has once again brought new honor to the pages of Safari Rally history. Joginder, who boasts an unbelievable 16 entries in the rally, with 15 finishers and a 2-time outright winner. This year, Joginder has added to his many honors the private team pride.
I went back, and as I told you, I was almost headhunted. I mean, a young graduate was a rare thing. That's at a time when even school leavers were very rare in Kenya, So, and there was this exciting work to be done in civil service, the transition taking place in the economy, and really, I just stayed there. The life was very exciting. The life was comfortable, in the Kenyan context. Working conditions, accessibility to sports, weather, all those were to be enjoyed, and I did in full measure. There were few like us who saw future in Kenya, who in that window of time, when citizenship was available to us and Kenya government was willing to make us citizens, did become citizens of Kenya, and I'm very glad I did at that particular time. We became citizens of Kenya, and I must say, I am today what Kenyan government let me be, and all the credit for that should go to Kenya government, because it gave me the opportunity to be what I am. So, that's how we progressed. But by late 70s, it was obvious to a person like me that if I had to continue in Kenya, I could not do so in civil service beyond the sort of levels that I had reached. And that the only alternative was for me either to get out into some sort of private sector arrangement in an Asian context, or else seek my fortunes outside, which is what I did. In fact, while I was in the Commonwealth Secretariat for 6 years till 87, I was still a member of the Kenya Government Civil Service, but working here on secondment. And then, still on secondment, I moved to United Nations. And I really only retired from Kenya government in 92.
Right, I see. So you're actually still employed then?
Yeah. I mean, I get my pension from Kenya government even now. It's not very much, but it has a lot of sentimental value.
Did you go?
And then my father actually had a village shop,
Okay.
an all-round village shop. You know, a bit like the Waltons family. You sell the cooking oil to salt to clothes and dresses.
And how large was the shop?
Do you know? I'm going to say this because when you're young, you see everything which is in your mind is large, and some 20 years later, when you go back, you think, God, that's a tiny room. So I wouldn't like to say, well, it was a huge shop, but when I was a little girl, I used to think it was a huge shop. So
They used to sell absolutely everything.
There were quite a few shops like that. So by textile, look for soaps, food, grocery, flour, everything.
And who would the shop sell to? Would it be to Asian people or to local Africans
The
or
local
Europeans?
Local Africans. See, the distinction is that you would have village store like the one that my father had, which was like an all-round complete, and they would have other shops competing in the same village, maybe. But in the cities where majority of the Asians lived, you had like a little bit of a city feel. So you'd have a special bakery, and you'd have your tailor shop, you'd have a vegetable shop, you'd have a special shoe shop, and they would have Clark's shoes was the ones that we had in Uganda, you know, Bata, B-A-T-A, Bata. There were all of these specialized shops that you could see in the city, but out in the villages you wouldn't have any of that brands.
And was it kind of a traditional job to go into then if you were living in the cities for an Asian background to open one of these smaller grocery stores? Was it traditional within your
I don't
family,
think
or?
so. I don't think so. I think depending on the era and the pattern of Asian migration, the ones who went very early, like my grandfather, perhaps had a few of those settled in the remote parts, but the others who might have come as a subsequent generation primarily stayed in the cities for working for other businessmen or for other businesses, and so there was a different setup of communities in places like Kampala, Jinja, Mabale, Soroti. I remember in the cotton ginnery we would play hide and seek, and it was lovely to hide in the fluffy area and thinking, find me, and all of this cotton would be bundled up into Hessian bag with metal strips and with little black writing Liverpool, which stayed with me for a long time until I came here and wanted to go and visit Liverpool. So I did one day.
My father moved to Uganda, and purely and simply for economic reasons. The situation in India was very, very bad. They were coming from a farming community, and I think my father told me that because of the poor weather and all sorts of things, they were seriously in debt.
Right.
He was the only solution for getting his family out of the situation, because he was the only educated person at that stage, was up to GCSE, O levels. So he got a chance, as his cousin who was already in Uganda invited him to see if he can create a job opportunity for him in Uganda.
What sort of jobs did the men do?
दुकान वाला है दुकान चलावे
मोटे पाए आपड़े
हाँ जिनेरी वाला है कपास नहीं कॉफी नहीं जिनेरियो में ऑफिस जॉब है ऑफिस में जाए स्कूल है टीचर.
There were teachers, people who owned ginneries or coffee plantations, people who run shops. So there's a bit of variety.
After school, at the gates, at the school gates, outside the school compound, vendors would sit there with cassava chips or guavas and things like that. And
Mango slice.
And of course, by lunchtime, you're so hungry. we would buy one or two of these pieces of fruit and eat them on our way home. And I think that was more enjoyable than the lunch itself. But I'm not going to tell her that.
Could you ask your mum whether you were good children or bad children?
Yeah. I mean, Nana Tatyar is Sara Chokra tak mastikor. Thoda se mastikor.
Yeah.
Yeah, mischievous.
What did they do?
वैसे करता
छोकरा झगड़ी पड़े वो बीजू सु घरमा भેગા થાય કે બાદ ના આવ્યા હોય એની સાથે
Fighting in between, amongst themselves.
બીજું
તો કઈ નથી.
તમારે કહેતો હતો ને હું કહેતો હતો લઈને હું ઓલા મંકોડા મારતો હતો પાપ લાગે
કીડીઓ પાપ આપણે કઈ પેલો ઓટલો હતો ને પાછળ ઓટલા પર બેસાડીએ તો પછી શું કરે ચલાય નહીં એટલે નીચે કીડી જતી હોય કીડી નાથ કરીને મારી નાખે. આપણે કઈ ના મારા કે કીડીઓ પાપ તમે કો પાપ લાગે આ કીડીઓ નો.
When Arun was little, they would sit him.
Because I was suffering from polio, I couldn't move.
So they would sit him on a cushion outside, and in the tropics you always get little ants roaming around, and he was told not to kill them, because if you kill them,
we Hindus believe
you'd be cursed by the gods. It's a sin. So Arun would sit there and he would kill them and say, "Kill your pop? Oh, have I sinned?" He'd kill them and he would ask the question.
So you're testing the gods?
Yeah. I used to ask for reassurance from, have I sinned? Have I sinned? Kill them.
And kill them at the same time.